Good afternoon to you. It is a minute past 3 p.m. East African time here in Nairobi. I trust that your day has been going on well. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you tuned in and watching us from this lovely afternoon from here. Here is the latest news from across the continent of Africa. We start from Equatorial Guinea. And Vice President Teodoro Nguema Obiang Mangue has dismissed a resolution by the European Parliament which holds the Equatorial Guinean authorities responsible for the death of opposition leader Julio Obama Mefuma. In a series of posts, Obiang Mangue, who is also the son of President Teodoro Obiang Nguema Basogo, accused the European Parliament of resorting to a colonial and paternalistic discourse and of disparaging the Equatorial Guinean institutions and its representatives. Mr. Mefuma, a Spanish national and a member of the opposition movement for the liberation of the Third Republic of Equatorial Guinea, was accused by the authorities of plotting to overthrow the government. According to the MLGE 3R, Mr. Mefuma and 3 other dissidents were lured to South Sudan under false pretense and then forcibly flown to Equatorial Guinea, where they were tortured over an alleged coup plot. On the 16th of January, Equatorial Guinea's Foreign Minister Simeon Oyono stated that Mr. Mefuma had died in a hospital in the eastern town of Mongomo in Welenzas province as a result of an illness he had been suffering from. Very well. We go to Ethiopia, and calls are growing for Ethiopia to revoke an order that suspended 15 foreign media outlets and regional journalist association from operating in the country's eastern Somalia regional state. The state's media regulator issued indefinite suspensions to the news outlets, which include the BBC Somali service, on January the 28th. The regulator's order said the media organizations did not have the necessary licensing for foreign media, and it blocked the news outlets and their representatives from working in the state, and that is according to the rights group. A few days later, a regional body that oversees civil society groups revoked the license of the Somali Region Journalist Association. In its letter to the association, the regional authorities say that the SRJA had acted inappropriately according to the reports. The action came after the chair of the SRJA criticized the suspension of the media outlets and accused the local authority of suppressing media freedom, according to an Ethiopian non-profit, the Center for Advancement of Rights and Democracy. Now, the actions by the regional authorities have eroded reporting in the region and paint a picture of government unwilling to make room for dissenting voices. That is according to Committee to Protect Journalists Representative Mudoki Mumo in a statement where they also added that authorities should allow journalists from these outlets to resume their jobs and ensure that enforcement of licensing regulations is not used to muzzle up the media. The media advocacy groups Reporters Without Borders also criticized the move. We go to South Africa, and President Cyril Ramaphosa participated in the opening ceremony for the Trilateral naval drills involving Russia, China, and South Africa. The naval exercise, named Mosi II, is taking place off South Africa's Indian Ocean's coast. Speaking of the opening ceremony, Russian Navy Commander Admiral Nikolai Yevmenov reaffirmed the close ties between the 3 countries. According to the South African government, at least 350 members of the South African Navy and other military branches are participating in the exercise, the second time since 2019, and 3 countries organize. Since 2019, the 3 countries organize naval drills. The armed exercise takes place against the backdrop of the war in Ukraine and increased tensions between China and the US. The ships participating in the maritime drills include a Russian frigate, the Admiral Korshkov, which is armed with hypersonic missiles, as well as an oil tanker for refueling. A South African frigate and 3 Chinese ships, a destroyer and a frigate and a support vessel. Well, very well. And then we go to Somalia, where at least 10 people have been confirmed to have died following an attack in Somali's capital, Mogadishu. The authorities say they have ended the siege at a building which was attacked by fighters from the Al-Shabaab Islamist group. Heavily armed fighters from the group stormed a building occupied by pro-government militia on Tuesday night and killed several people. It took hours for the authorities to end the siege in the Abdi Aziz district. Heavy gunfire and explosions could be heard late into the night. Security forces say they killed 4 members of Al-Shabaab, which had said it was behind the attack. The group has lost a huge amount of territory in recent months following an offensive by Somalia's military backed by African Union and US forces and clan militia. But attacks like this in the heart of the city show they remain a deadly threat to the federal government. And then we go to Burkina Faso. The military government in the country is preparing to rebury the remains of former President Thomas Sankara today, even after his family said they will not attend. The private ceremony will be held at the spot where Sankara was gunned down along with 12 others in a military coup in October 1987. His family said they would not attend because they were not satisfied with the site, but the government said the choice was guided by the social, cultural and security imperatives of the national interest. Sankara remains a hero for many across Africa because of his anti-imperialist stance and austere lifestyle. The government says his reburial will be done according to customary and religious funeral rites. Sankara rose to power in 1983 and was killed 4 years later at the age of 37 in a coup led by his close friend Blaise Compaoré. Mr. Compaoré proceeded to rule the country for 27 years before being deposed in 2014 after a popular uprising. He was handed a life sentence in absentia in 2022 for the death of Mr. Sankara. It's quite interesting. The army is saying they want to follow that the remains will be buried according to the customary and religious funeral rites. The customary demands that the family must be there and must have a huge say in how you rebury. So if the family is not comfortable, I don't think the government has a right to just go ahead blatantly and unilaterally make such decisions. I think it's quite important. I know Thomas Sankara was a national treasure, and indeed he's a celebrated Pan-Africanist. But nevertheless, you know, he had a very strong family foundation who offered him support and all that. And so just disagreeing with the family and going ahead and reburying his remains anyway, despite the fact that the family was not comfortable, one, with the choice of the burial site, and two, they are not going to be attending, but you still go ahead and disregard all that and decide you're going to rebury him anyway because, it's according to what you're saying there. Will be guided by social, cultural, and security imperatives of national interest. You can't put the national interest in this case because I don't think wherever you bury him, it will pose any sort of, national security matter. So I think I fault the army on this. I think it would have been prudent to just try to talk with the family and come to an agreement. Otherwise, this might tatter the memory of Thomas Sankara, but that is just my personal opinion. Okay, so the latest update as far as the elections in Nigeria is concerned. A lot has been happening, and today, the final day of campaigning is getting underway in Nigeria ahead of Saturday's presidential poll. 3 contenders are thought to have a chance of winning in Africa's most populous country. It is thought to be the most competitive election since the end of military rule in 1999. All sides have promised to resolve any dispute through the courts. In addition to the candidates from the 2 main parties, the governing All Progressive Congress and the People's Democratic Party, and a third leading contender has emerged. Peter Obi of the Labour Party has attracted enthusiastic support from young activists, especially on social media. Now, the problem with that, and I hope Peter Obi as much as perhaps he could be enjoying this and what Twitter is saying and his trending and all the support that the Twitter people, this will be the younger generation, and you can see there from the graphics on your screen the demographic there. So it is expected, and social media has become a very important place as far as politics and campaigns and running agendas and propagandas and all these things is concerned. It has become a very important platform for elections. But unfortunately, a lot of these people who are extremely active on these platforms sometimes never they never transform to actual votes. So as much as he's having all this support and he's trending on Twitter and he seems to be doing well in the Twitter voters sphere, as hopefully that would translate to votes, but a lot of times it really doesn't. But nevertheless, he has been receiving a lot of enthusiastic support from younger activists, especially on social media. So the latest as well, according to what has been happening, hundreds of cardboard boxes containing ballots are loaded into trucks in Lagos under the surveillance of political party agents and police. Nigerians go to the polls on Saturday to elect successor of President Muhammadu Buhari, who is stepping down after 8 years at the helm of Africa's largest economy. And I've mentioned the candidates for these elections. There were 18. Yesterday I reminded us 18 candidates, 17 are male and 1 female, and they're all vying and hoping to replace President Buhari, at least one of them. And there are 3 main contenders. That is Atiku Abubakar, who is 76 years old, and he's running through the People's Democratic Party ticket, the main opposition party. And he is a former vice president. Abubakar is a perennial hopeful for the top job. He ran in 2007, 2009, lost his party's primaries in 1993, 2011 and 2015. So he is long suffering. In short, to be declared winner of the presidential election, a candidate must have obtained the highest number of votes and must also poll at least 25% of the ballots in at least 2/3 of the 36 states in Abuja. The 36 states and Abuja. Okay, if none of the candidates meet the requirements, there will be a runoff between the two candidates within 21 days, although this has never happened in Nigerian history. So we have Atiku, and we also have Tinubu, and then Peter Obi. Those are the 3 main contenders, but as I said, there are 18 presidential candidates there. And even as Nigeria gears towards its elections, Nigerians are facing severe economic hardship ahead of their Saturday's presidential election in Africa's most populous country, with double-digit inflation, low wages, and cash and fuels shortages. The economic recovery of the English-speaking giant, a country of about 215 million people, will be one of the major issues at stake in the election. Inflation is approaching 22%, and the national currency, the naira, is constantly plummeting against the dollar, currently 750 naira to the dollar on the black market, compared to 200 in 2015. To make matters worse, the country is facing severe cash shortage due to a recent central bank reform which gave Nigerians 3 months to return all old notes without putting the equivalent in new denominations back into circulation. For weeks, the population has been struggling day and night to find cash. Long queues have formed outside banks and bureau where money is changed, and many have closed, unable to meet the demand. And in several major cities, from Lagos southwest to Benin City in the south to Kano in the north, widespread exasperation, and that has led to the riots and even in extreme cases the banning of these financial institutions there. Although the country has returned to a positive growth, at least 3% last year, the recovery has not improved the living conditions of the majority. Unemployment is around 33% nationally and as high as 43% among the young people. And of course, barely 48 hours to the presidential and national assembly elections, the People Democratic Party, I'm just giving us an update of Nigeria's election. So barely 48 hours. to the presidential, national and National Assembly elections, the People's Democratic Party and Labour Party have lost scores of members of APC in the Federal Capital Territory. The news agency of Nigeria reports that the defectors were received into the fold of APC on Wednesday in Abuja, and the National Coordinator, National Mass Movement for Better Orientation, Dr. Hawa Iyatu Bagu, a frontline Tinubu support group, said the development was an indication of APC's victory in the February 25th election. So apparently APC received some defectors from the People's Democratic Party, the main opposition party there, and so they're saying this could be an indication that the APC party is likely to win this. But like I said, that that is left to the people of Nigeria to decide, with only just a day to go. And now, ahead of Saturday's presidential and National Assembly elections, the Independent National Election Commission on Wednesday commenced the distribution and sensitive materials in states including Lagos, Benue, Ondo, Ekiti, and Osun. Also, as part of the preparations for the polls, the President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday met with security chiefs at the presidential villa in Abuja, where he said INEC had no excuse not to conduct successful polls. In not fewer than 9 states, the Electoral Commission stepped up preparations through the distribution of sensitive materials to local government areas in Ado, Ekiti, in the Ekiti State Capital. The resident National Electoral Commissioner, Professor Yobani, met with the security agencies and officials of the Commission before the distribution of the materials. So it appears INEC has done its best as far as the distribution of the election materials. But also I was just watching some very disturbing images there of some, I think was it a truck carrying election materials. And if you know about this incident, please, let me know. And then it was hijacked by some people wielding guns there, and the staff of INEC, I think, were lying on the ground, and I think these people went or set these materials on fire or something like that. I can't remember the place, but this video is quite recent. And the exercise also commenced in Ondo State, where the media and everybody else is there and was witnessing all these things happening. Now, commenting on the development, the Acting Residential Electoral Commission of Endo stated that the process was smooth, but proper arrangements were made to ensure that the materials go to the council areas. The exercise was carried out, as I've said, in Lagos as well, under heavy presence of security agencies at the CBN headquarters, Marina in Lagos, and also in other places as well. So anyway, President Buhari has said there's no reason why INEC cannot conduct free and fair elections. So I think that is the hope of every Nigerian, even as they get ready to go and cast their votes on Saturday. And before the materials were distributed, the resident electoral commissioner said no big man will be allowed to come out on election day with his orderly. The distribution being disorderly. So anybody who is going to vote that day, whether you're a big man in terms of you're a known person, a politician, and all that, you must follow the laid procedure. There'll be no preferential treatment, I think, except for the leading candidates or something like that. Normally they'll be allowed to go and just take their vote and have a photo moment there and all that. So, but that is the latest. There's been the distribution of election materials. And then a Nigerian senatorial candidate was on Wednesday shot dead and his body burned by attackers while on his way from a campaign rally in the southern state of Enugu. The attack on Oyibo Chukwu of the Labour Party happened 3 days to Saturday's general elections, which is being described as the country's most competitive polls in 24 years. His aides who were with him were also shot dead before their car was set ablaze with the bodies inside, the local media has reported. And so, that is so disheartening. So the Labour Party has not commented on the attack, but its presidential candidate Peter Obi has been urging supporters to vote correctly, peacefully, and hopefully. So yesterday, I was just taking us through the procedures as far as this voting in Nigeria is concerned. And just in case, let me see if I can get that. Just in case a candidate dies, there's a procedure on how that is supposed to happen and is supposed to take place. I don't know if I have it with me right now. Maybe not. But yesterday I was just taking us through the procedures and all that. And so if a candidate dies before elections are done, I believe that those elections, like in this case, this is a senatorial candidate. So that means the senatorial elections in that area will not take place. All right. The other elections will take place, after the presidential elections. No, presidential and senatorial elections were meant to be taking place on Saturday. And then 2 weeks later, other elections. So because this person, one of the candidates here, was murdered, I don't even want to describe that gruesome, how that even happened. So that means the senatorial elections in that area will be suspended, but the rest of the elections will take place. And then until the party that has been affected can file another candidate, and then a new date will be set. I think within 21 days will be set for the senatorial elections to happen in this area. So it's quite unfortunate. So Nigeria, even as it prepares to go through its elections, I think there is a mirage of a lot of things that are happening right now. And I think insecurity is just top of the economy. And as I was just reading to you there earlier, the economy, security and economy, I think these are the two main key things that might help some, or might make some people make certain decisions as to who and how they're going to support and how they are going to vote. And so these are very important issues to the people of Nigeria. So I don't know, because of the hard times the people have been going through and all that, and the Naira cash crunch that people have been experiencing there with the new notes. I don't know if that might backfire against the APC and its presidential candidate, Tinubu. I don't know if that will be the case, or Nigerians will be able to look beyond that and say, we loved the way President Buhari perhaps led us here, and we love what Tinubu is promising and his agenda. So despite of what the ruling party has been able to do or not do, we are just going to vote for its candidate anyway and continue with to some extent, the legacy of President Buhari, or decide, no, we don't want anything to do with that. Let's try a different person, maybe in the name of Obi or in the name of Atiku Abubakar. And so the beauty about multi-party democracy is that you have a varied of people to choose from. So I think it's really up to Nigerians to decide what really is working for them. And they have 18 candidates to choose from. So if candidate 1 or 2 or 3 does not speak to your heart, then you have another 15 people to choose from. Candidate 10, 15, whichever you feel is speaking to your heart and you see is able to articulate how the issues that they will be dealing with, and if at all these issues are closer to your heart. So it is a lot which is at stake, but it's quite interesting. As I was talking to you about Obi, I don't know why they term him as frugal, and yet he's he's a wealthy businessman with a reputation for being frugal. That is Peter Obi for you. And he has emerged as a powerful force ahead of February's Nigeria's presidential election, energizing voters with messages of prudence and accountability that are amplified by an army of social media users. Now, that is the slippery slope that Peter Obi might want to be very careful about. This army of social media users usually does not really translate to votes a lot of times. I've seen that in this country. They're busy on Twitter, pushing for hashtags and all that. And when it comes to election day, they're just busy. They're still on Twitter, by the way. They're still busy on Twitter, but they're just too lazy to go queue on those lines and vote. Those and also the pseudo middle class that we have in this country, but they're the ones who complain a lot when things are not working, and yet they don't always feel as if it is important for them and queue and make their voices heard in terms of choosing the leaders that they believe will make a difference as far as running the country is concerned. Having an opportunity to vote in a country, it is a very important civic duty that we should not be taking lightly. You see, countries like the US, they're so organized. They will have campaign teams who will knock door to door, who will make phone calls and all that, because they understand the importance and they understand the difference and the agendas. I think for their, because of the main parties, Republican and Democratic parties, it's quite clear, if you're a Republican, you know exactly what you're voting for, sorry, in terms of values and the leadership, but if you're a Republican, then you know exactly what you're voting for and all that. So I think maybe it's much easier in such a country, but, like in Nigeria, you have a whole 18 candidates, which is still a good thing, but also sometimes the issues they articulate and the values and what even these parties stand for or are pushing for or are known for, sometimes it's really not there. So you're just hoping, and it's a gamble that maybe I've heard Obi speak about security, or I've heard Abubakar speak about security, or I've heard Tinubu speak about security. So which of these three and the rest, I haven't heard much about the rest of the other 15, which of these are able to capture the issue of security the way I would love security matter to be addressed should person A or B or C come to power. So that's it. That's just about it. But unfortunately, that is not how we interrogate these people that we vote for. It's just far from it. We don't look at the issues anyway. And so Peter Obi has really attracted supporters, and his supporters seems to be border on populism, a tag he and his supporters will denounce, but some of his rhetoric might be encouraging that. So he says it is time to take your country back. It's quite a populist stance there. And then he says this election is the old against the new, as in the old guard in Abubakar has been there before, and Tinubu also has served there before. So he's saying, let's get rid of these people who have had positions in the government before, and I am the change that you need. That's what Obi campaigns. And his name is often trending in social media on the back of numerous conversations sparked by his supporters, instantly recognizable from their display picture of his image or the white, red and green logo of his party. These are mostly urban under 30s. This age group does not really vote. Under 30s, because I have siblings under I don't know if any of them has ever even bothered to vote, to be honest. So under 30, this has been the people who have been pushing the hashtags. These ones will not go out to vote. So if Peter Obi was relying, or maybe Nigeria is different, maybe this woke generation will actually go queue and in the middle of the sun, in the middle of the day, and stay away from Wi-Fi and all that, and Netflix and chilling, and actually go queue and vote. I maybe, but we will look at the figures after the elections. I think we will take a look at the figures and see the demographic and how this voting has taken place. James Friday, will you be voting on Saturday? And thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Together with okay, so they call themselves the coconut head generation. So because they're strong-willed and independent-minded, and half of them still live in their parents' home, but they're strong-minded. I don't know. It's just that generation nowadays is just something else. Anyway, many of them anyway, so they are deploying the same strategies that mobilized hundreds of thousands of young Nigerians and raised millions of naira within weeks for the 61-year-old who they consider an alternative and to the two parties that have dominated politics since the end of the military rule in 1999. And as I was explaining to you yesterday, for the first time, the leading candidates, or all the candidates, none of them has a military background, as it has been in the past for the first time. And so that is just Peter Obi for you in a nutshell. I think we've talked so much about Atiku Abubakar and also Tinubu, so I will not go into the details so much. So I think that is the latest from the Nigerian election. So it's just a day away. So let's see. And today is the last day. Today is the last campaigning day, and so the campaigns are underway in Nigeria, being the last day of campaign as the country readies itself for the Saturday presidential poll. Okay, so the issue of all right, I think we'll just end it here for this afternoon. I don't know if I want to. I don't want to talk about Equatorial Guinea this afternoon. Let's meet here tomorrow, God willing. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Miriam Mugutu. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.